Today, I'm diving into a 2023 drama film called Hunger. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The film kicks off with a gripping scene of an intense cooking process in the kitchen of the Hunger restaurant. As the staff meticulously chop ingredients and keep time with a stopwatch, Chef Paul meticulously preps for the workday. His subordinates greet him in a neat line, while he fusses over his appliances. Outdoors, he skillfully prepares a fancy lobster in front of the gathered visitors, imbuing it with a flair worthy of Ralph Fiennes' menu. Paul then offers the owner a taste of the dish, insisting it must be eaten with the hands and first dipped in the sauce, all while scrutinizing the reaction closely. The story then shifts to Aoi, a cook in a tiny family-run diner. After a customer tastes her dishes, they offer her a business card for the Hunger restaurant, believing her culinary talents are wasted on fast food. However, Aoi hesitates to leave her job as the eldest daughter, feeling responsible for running the family business. Despite her reservations, her friends inform her about Hunger's prestige, highlighting that many can't afford to dine there. Intrigued, Aoi Googles information about Chef Paul, finding rave reviews from clients. Impressed by the potential opportunities, she agrees to a job interview and finds herself in a luxurious skyscraper, feeling out of place due to her lower status. While waiting for the boss, she explores the kitchen, only to be startled by a sudden shout, causing her to drop a knife. The cooks stare at her in silence, offering no explanation. Just as she's about to leave, she encounters Paul, and the staff immediately snaps into rigid attention. It's revealed that there are two candidates for the position, and the second one speaks out of turn, earning a reprimand. The test assignment, frying rice. A culinary duel ensues, with the guy showcasing gastronomic magic while Aoi dutifully follows orders, frying rice without any unnecessary showmanship. Paul is more impressed by Aoi's humility and skill than the pretentious upstart, rewarding her with a job offer and a meal to take home. Catching a whiff of fast food on her, Paul instructs Aoi to wash it off before joining the new team. Then, a colleague named Tony gives an introductory tour of the kitchen, explaining everyone's duties. Paul assigns the staff a task, a private party. Aoi receives her first assignment, to roast beef, testing her skills. Despite her boss's supervision, she struggles, prompting Paul to gradually escalate into shouting as he tries to teach her. The next challenge is proper roasting, but Aoi continues to falter, pushing Paul into full-on Gordon Ramsay mode, yelling incessantly. In response, she changes into her usual attire from her cheap diner and begins tirelessly practicing to improve her skills, staying late into the night while the rest of the staff heads home. In the morning, she's found asleep at her workplace. When Paul arrives, Aoi puts a slice of meat in a pan and starts cooking, handing the product to Paul, who tastes it without comment, signaling her satisfaction. Tony hands her a napkin to wipe the oil off her burned hands. At the party, Tony explains to Aoi who the guests are, leaving her awestruck by the proximity to celebrities and politicians. She's tasked with grilling meat in front of these esteemed guests, who not only want to eat but also enjoy the spectacle of a famous restaurant. Aoi earns her first round of applause for her skills. The team then serves an extravagant and pretentious meal, delighting the guests who eagerly indulge themselves. After dinner, as Paul receives compliments and thanks, an important guest, the young Mr. Toss, gives his business card to Aoi, just in case. Back at the family diner, with no new orders, Aoi longs for a more refined eating culture. Her brother notices her changed demeanor and teases her, but she's distracted by a phone call. Tony invites her on a boat trip to search for ingredients for the chef, explaining that he used to shop with him, supporting poor farmers. During the next shift, the chef sends Aoi to wash dishes and floors. She argues, prompting him to instruct her to replace the vegetable chopper. In the process, she cuts her finger, putting her in her place. Despite receiving a stripper and a cigar from a wealthy gentleman as a sign of gratitude, Paul remains indifferent to such gestures. His subordinates, observing the party, seethe with class anger but are powerless to act. The heroine visited Tony to socialize with a more civilized interlocutor. In his kitchen, she learned how to cut vegetables, fry patties, and uniquely decorate the serving. Since the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, the evening smoothly developed into avid kissing. At the next meeting with the hungry team, the girl offered her colleagues to taste her dish. They discreetly pointed out flaws to work on. When the chef arrived, he noticed a cigarette in one of the cook's hands, forcing him to hold it in his mouth. Paul told the guy to taste the soup he was making. When the cigarette fell into the pot, the chef stirred the hellish gruel with a spoon and made the smoker taste it. Then, the chef announced that there was a thief in the team. A boot had gone missing. He suggested that the thief confess voluntarily before watching the surveillance tape. Aoi suspected Tony, but suddenly another employee confessed and was immediately fired by Paul. Due to a shortage of staff, the chef put Aoi in charge of the upcoming event. The cooks began preparations early in the morning, hauling equipment and supplies. The heroine noticed Paul being handed money by a male customer, the head of a modest family. Later, she brought them dessert, receiving a pink star sticker from the girl for this. Not a Michelin star, but one has to start small. When the cook gave the chef a taste of the soup, he told her to pour it out. Instead, he tossed all the vegetables into the pot at once and sprinkled the concoction with seasonings from instant noodle packets. Paul treated the customer's family to the resultant slurry while Aoi observed from afar. The chef conducted a blame-storming in the kitchen and claimed that the soup was tainted with shrimp. The cooks denied putting shrimp in the soup, but Paul investigated the situation. The reason, however, was not the cost of the seafood. The girl was severely allergic to it. The chef emotionally reprimanded the guilty one, and the subordinate, unable to bear it, stabbed him in the side with a knife. Aoi visited the chef in the hospital. The latter was hysterical about the disgusting food and flowers. She brought him a dish she made herself, a regular noodle dish made according to the family recipe in a plastic container. Yet, a professional chef immediately identified the ingredients and the recipe just by tasting it, saying, "Made with love is a professional beggar's excuse," he said. When asked what drove him to become a chef, Paul told of his poor childhood. His mother was a maid to rich people, and she kept him around. One day, he took a jar of black caviar out of the refrigerator, but being caught stealing, he dropped it and broke it. His mother had to repay the debt for a long time, but the most disappointing part was that the forbidden fruit picked up from the floor turned out to be tasteless. He realized that it was not delicious food that the rich people wanted, but elitism. So he decided to become a chef that the high society would beg to cook for them. When Aoi returns home, she sees a closed diner. Her father got sick and went to the hospital. Aoi goes there and sits beside him while he is recovering from anesthesia after an operation. The news reports on the tragic death of an entire family, the same one she recently catered for. The father shot and killed his wife and daughter, then shot himself because of bankruptcy. The next order brings Paul's team into the wilderness of a national park, where a hunter wants to taste fresh game with no need to worry. The victim is a rhinoceros bird. After the photos are taken, the prey's throat is slit to drain the blood. Howie wonders if this is legal, but the chef replies that their business is to cook, not to be tormented by moral dilemmas. Most of the food was once living creatures anyway. Yet this is no excuse for the girl. She removes her apron and leaves the elite team to return to the tiny family-run diner. She enlists the help of Mr. Toss, who promises to make her the youngest and most beautiful chef in the country. He shows her the place where he plans to open a new restaurant. Aoi offers Tony to go under her supervision, but he refuses. She soon tries to diligently copy Paul's methods by paying extra attention to serving and communicating with the staff. However, Toss does not appreciate her efforts, seeing it as imitation rather than individuality. Trying to find her identity, the heroine even sets a fire in the restaurant. Soon, the establishment with the laconic name Flame opens its doors to the first visitors. Enthusiastic customers take photos of her at work. Aoi shows her father's compliments about her. However, the success does not bring her peace of mind. She visits Tony, whose restaurant is on the verge of closing. He assumes that without a wealthy sponsor, it is difficult to find a successful place for a restaurant. The girl assures him that it's not about a sponsor. She works hard, burning her hands in the process as she did under Paul. Aoi asks Mr. Toss to help Tony, and although the rich man doesn't see any potential in him, he promises to think of something. He also informs her that she is invited to a party for celebrities as a cook. In all the hustle and bustle, she has no time to visit her family. She only has time to call her brother after work. She hardly leaves the restaurant when there's a knock on the door. For the sake of such a guest, the heroine prepares individual dishes. Chef Paul tries her cooking. However, he does not want to give his opinion on the food. The main thing is that the rich people pay her for her cooking on a regular basis. Yet, Paul wonders, now that she has become special, has her dream come true? Unlike her, he is well aware that climbing up is not as difficult as staying up. As he leaves, Paul warns her that he won't be the only cook hired at the upcoming party. So the day of the filthy rich Asians party arrives. The guests prefer to take pictures with Paul, which infuriates Aoi, but Toss brings Tony to cheer up the girl, who is facing a cooking battle with her former boss. Aoi's dish wins the first round, and the guests are delighted with the taste and serving. Then, Paul retaliates immediately with a performance. The color of the lights changes to blood red, and half a beef carcass descends from the ceiling on chains. Paul, like a mad samurai, shreds the carcass with a huge knife, then sprinkles it with spices and sets it on fire. The roasted carcass is laid out on the table along with the knives, and the chef cuts off the first piece for the hostess. Afterwards, the guests, like savages who have forgotten all about manners and cutlery, grab the food with their hands. The gazes of the heroine and her opponent cross. The men feel superior, but Aoi does not give up. She cooks a simple dish without pathos, noodles according to her grandmother's homemade recipe. The meal is served with a heartfelt speech about the value of family. In response, Paul pours soup into bowls, his murmuring arousing the heroine's unkind ambitions. While the guests happily gobble the slop, Paul approaches the former employee to give one last lesson. You can't beat people's prejudice. The man will win the competition because he has an established reputation, and she is new to the business. Suddenly, the police show up at the reception. They want to arrest Paul. Messages arrive on the guests' phones. A video of the chef cooking a rhinoceros bird. Such barbarism, or rather the fact that he has been caught, provokes angry condemnation from the elite. Looking around, Paul sees the satisfied faces of Tony and Toss, after which he warns Aoi that he will avoid punishment. After expressing her admiration for Aoi, the hostess switches to the stripper's performance. Toss says that she has a great future. Overthrowing Paul is a great way of promotion. Tony provided the tape in exchange for help with the business. However, the girl is not pleased with such a victory. She walks away. The heroine looks at the rich people mindlessly and carelessly living their lives, while they bust their asses to satisfy their whims. Eager to impress powerful strangers, Aoi strolls through the poor neighborhood at night, where the locals sincerely enjoy the simple food that sustains life rather than serves as a social label for success. In the morning, she reaches her father's diner. The old man, discharged from the hospital, is preparing to reopen it. Bursting into tears, his daughter throws herself on his neck and cries as he tells her she's finally home. When the whole family is reunited, the heroine picks up an old frying pan and goes behind the stove. She decides to remain a cook here, where she belongs, not in the pretentious world of rich people. Aoi starts cooking, and that's how the movie ends. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to get more videos like this.